Welcome to the channel everyone. We have a hobby challenge coming up with a new World Eaters release, which should be hell for me and in turn entertaining for you. So stay tuned to the channel for more details as we get closer to the World Eaters release, and if you're keen, hit the sub button so you don't miss out. Into the video now, the only video available on YouTube regarding the Inquisition's Henchmen and Acolytes. We have already discussed the Inquisition as a whole, including their various factions and motivation. Not only that, we've also compiled an in-depth video regarding the exploits of Inquisitor Eisenhorn and his eclectic little team of acolytes. I'll link both these videos in the description below. They are easily the most viewed long-form content on the channel, so do yourself a favour and check them out after this one. Today though, you're in for a treat as we're going to dive into the various followers that make up an Inquisitor's retinue, some of the most interesting and unique characters in the entire 40k setting. An Inquisitor's success and the personality of their warband is influenced tremendously by this collection of people. To give you a heads up, we'll be discussing the roles of Interrogator, assassins of both the Officio Assassinorum and the various death cults, rogue traders, demon hosts, stormtroopers, cultists and fanatics, preachers, tech priests, and bounty hunters. During an Inquisitor's career, due to the nature of their clandestine works, wherein they may interact closely with individuals from all walks of nature, from mutants through to the nobility of Terra itself, an Inquisitor will often collect a vast array of close contacts with all manner of skills and talents. For this reason, as an Inquisitor progresses through their career from Acolyte to Interrogator, then finally Inquisitor, rosette in hand, they will form around themselves an often close-knit group of compatriots referred to as Acolytes. Not all Acolytes will be with an Inquisitor from the beginning to end of their career, though some may. Often some will only be contacted for certain missions, as the individual may possess a very high, though very specific skill set not applicable to most situations. Other acolytes, such as Medicae or the muscle of the group, may well stick around until they feel it's their time to step back and make a life for themselves, if they so wish. So when it comes to hierarchy within a retinue, there is a particular rank and individual the busy Inquisitor can delegate to. The most senior of an Inquisitor's retinue is the role of Interrogator. An Interrogator serves as an apprentice of sorts, with the Inquisitor imparting particular skills and ethics upon the aspirant. An Interrogator is often recruited either from a Schola Progenium or has served an Inquisitor admirably in a particular role and therefore shown promise. Rarer instances can see a deceased Inquisitor's Interrogator join another's retinue to continue their training. Between these practices and the Interrogator's performance within the retinue, these factors contribute heavily as to whether an Interrogator will be rewarded their own Inquisitorial rosette, the official badge of office each fully fledged Inquisitor carries for proof of their authority. It could be said the most critical attributes a successful Interrogator should possess are those that lay at the heart of an Inquisitor, these being the ability to bear the burdens of the tasks set out for them, possession of sharp intelligence, and above all else, absolute loyalty to the Emperor of mankind, just as the first Inquisitors were shown to possess towards the closing of the heresy, all those millennia ago. Once a candidate is appointed to the rank of Interrogator, they will often be trusted with vital tasks to either enact themselves or lead bands of other acolytes to achieve some clandestine task. In these ways, an Interrogator's skill sets widen, whilst also proving whether or not they possess the necessary characteristics such as willpower, leadership, fortitude, and the ability to alter plans on the fly to achieve a positive result for their master in the face of adversity. It can easily be said that not all Interrogators are the most skilled of fighters or crack shots, though some quite obviously could be. That is why above all else an Interrogator, just as Inquisitors, must utilise the skill sets available to them through their henchmen to form a cohesive and flexible fighting force. Often being far younger in age compared to their masters, some Interrogators will possess psychic talents. In these instances, it is often the case the Inquisitor, which takes them as an apprentice, will also possess psychic attributes and will already be accomplished in their use. all the better to train the young apprentice in how to safely use this power. The various types of assassin available for deployment by an Inquisitor could be roughly divided between two types. These are the Temples of the Officio Assassinorum, which are an official arm of the Imperium and have been around in one form or another since before the heresy, and then there are the many various death cults dotted throughout the galaxy. These are unofficial, zealous worshippers of the Emperor who form deadly cults in veneration to him. Of the Officio Assassinorum, the major temples of the Calidus, Calexis, Eversor, and Vindicare all have their own reasons for finding their way into an Inquisitor's temporary employ, though an Inquisitor must be favoured indeed to access such effective assets. The snipers of the Vindicare Temple could be utilised to infiltrate enemy holdings and eliminate a target at long range when the ability of an Inquisitor to become close to a target is either difficult or too likely to result in death or collateral damage. Another use for the assassins of the Vindicare variety can also be to serve as a public warning, to eliminate a target from range in full view of their followers, and the general public sends a dire message indeed to any willing to side with the victim. Uncountable wars and uprisings have been won or entirely prevented with one pull of a Vindicare's trigger finger. Eversor assassins are often deployed to make a bloody and brutal point as fair warning to any who would dare stand against the Imperium. When a brutal message needs to be sent, one single Eversor assassin under the influence of stimulants and slaught to induce a blood-crazed state can be sent. Given the berserk and almost uncontrollable nature of the Eversor, when one is deployed and let loose upon a target, little is left of the mark other than the charnel house of bodily debris and excrement left in their wake. An Inquisitor can find use in the services of the Eversor Temple, either when a target needs to be annihilated completely, or when an Inquisitor deems the threat of bloody retribution needs to hang over a target's head, their compatriots butchered in the most visceral of ways. The art of the Eversor surely will dissuade any wrongdoers from plotting against the interests of the Inquisition. The operatives of the Calidus Temple use a shape-shifting drug called polymorphine to assume a different identity. By doing this, a Calidus operative can easily infiltrate different cultures, enemy workings, or even that of different species. Often the best use of this ability is for an operative to assume the identity of an enemy commander's close aide. Various detailed intelligence will be gathered prior to the agent's deployment to allow them to study for the role, assuming their unfortunate victim's character and personality traits, no matter how minute. In this way, not only can a Calidus assassin gain access to a valuable target for assassination whilst going undetected, but they can also gather vital intelligence in the process. On various warfronts throughout the galaxy, the ability to deploy an agent who can both skillfully infiltrate the enemy's command structure and even influence command decisions is priceless. In support of the Inquisition, a Calidus agent can find their way into a similar position as Inquisitors are well known to take to the field of battle when necessary, though there are uncountable tasks and objectives these individuals could achieve that would greatly advance an Inquisitor's operation. Such examples of operations are assuming the identity of an individual close to a target to blackmail them, or dissuade them from taking a certain course of action, or even to assume the identity of a well-known public figure to change the geopolitical landscape of a world or even system. For an Inquisitor to wield such power and authority is to fast-track outcomes, which could take years of risky missions and laborious detailed information gathering. The last of the major Officio Assassinorum temples is that of the Calexis. The operatives of this temple are rare indeed among humanity, in that not only are they members of the Assassinorum, but to become one, an initiate must first be born a blank. A blank is an individual with no presence in the warp, or as we would term it, no soul. This defect within their genetics is extremely rare, even considering the wealth of citizenry the Imperium of Man encompasses. Due to this innate ability, Culexus operatives are extremely effective at combating forces which draw strength from the warp, such as psykers and the demonic. Through use of their primary weapon, their helmets, called animus speculum, they will harness the warp energy of their target and reflect it back upon them. In this way, the target is stripped of their connection to the warp, rendering them ripe for the kill. This fate is especially horrifying for psykers, as to experience a severing from the warp, a perpetual process to a psyker, such as breathing for us, is absolutely horrifying, even more so when they realise how utterly defenceless they are for their impending murder. The use of Culexus by the Inquisition is truly a boon, especially for those of the Ordo Malleus who deal heavily in the hunting and banishing of the demonic, as well as tainted psykers. Outside of the rigorously controlled and downright brutal regime that is the Officio Assassinorum, there exists other organisations and groups of like-minded people called death cult assassins. What must be understood foremost is that the death cults prefer to passionately express their worship of the God Emperor through the act of killing. Every cut, every wound inflicted upon a target is intentionally made to perform some act of religious rite or supplication between the assassin and the Emperor. These cults are not formally a part of the ecclesiarchy or munitorum, and so must be monitored very closely for deviation from the core imperial creed, as their murderous tendencies and the way in which they display their devotion could easily be misconstrued as heresy. In fact, there are quite a number of cults which take their violent worship even beyond this and choose to cannibalize or drink the blood of their victims, further showing their devotion and in some cases believing they are consuming the soul and strength of the unfortunate victim. Given the skill at which these cultists can wield a blade or other often varied weapons of their choosing, they make for extremely effective agents for the more fanatical of inquisitors. The overwhelming majority of death cultists prefer close blade work to that of projectile weapons, though they are often efficient in the use of both. Lovingly maintained blades of all varieties are often displayed on their persons, such as rapiers, daggers, and even throwing blades. A death cultist can easily infiltrate the normal citizenry of a planet, as they do not have a military bearing or obvious signs of being associated with the formal arms of the Imperium. For all the advantages of skill a death cult assassin brings to a team, an inquisitor must be careful, as death cult assassins are highly unpredictable at times, due to their severe intolerance of any behaviour or species which does not meet the exacting standards of the Imperial Creed. It is an agent of iron will and absolute authority who can bring acolytes such as this into their company and also maintain control. From one end of the big wide galaxy to the other, there exists a great deal of wayward adventurers, flotsam, a form of skilled individuals who may be in the right place at the right time to be offered the opportunity to earn the wage the Inquisition can supply, or otherwise bring their various talents to bear for something their lives have been missing, a righteous cause. Inquisitors are intuitive by nature, and they can often reliably tell whether people of this ilk are worthwhile keeping around, or if they're in fact not as talented as they first appear or claim to be. The background stories and past careers of personnel such as these vary greatly. Some possess dark pasts and are in a constant state of evasion, travelling the stars or land masses of a particular planet to seek an escape from a past experience. Others may be trying to eke a living the best they can, hoping to stumble upon some big payoff or other opportunity to help in getting their lives back on track, though the vast majority are not worth a second glance. Individuals who are talented and can be found to be of use to an agent of the Inquisition may be gunslingers, bounty hunters, personnel of a military or militia background who are firm of moral and handy with their chosen weapon, or even washed up law officials no longer in employment for some past misdeed. If an Inquisitor has a care to nurture the talent and the moral compass of such individuals, they can often bring significant skill set and considering opinions to an Inquisitor's party. Gunslingers are handy with their chosen pistols or long rifles, able to assist in a direct combat role, though they may also have other talents such as mechanics or piloting or driving various types of vehicles to escort acolytes when on planet. Bounty hunters, more often than not, are skilled at the art of capturing a target alive. For an Inquisitor, this is an especially useful skill to have, as a deceased target is a silent one. To catch a person while going undetected is not an easy feat, though bounty hunters have particularly sharpened skill sets to facilitate this, by using bowlers, net guns, and even chloroform type chemical dispersion. Targets can quickly be taken down with a sharp hook to the jaw or back of the skull to ensure compliance and ease of transit. Being generally large of stature and good with a gun, bounty hunters also make a good account of themselves when combat is the only way out of a situation for an Inquisitor's retinue. Not all Inquisitors see the value in absorbing such individuals into their company though. For a lot of them, these people are beneath them and not worth the time or risk involved in engaging their services. Hardline Puritans especially will tend to steer clear of desperado type persons, perhaps engaging the services of a bounty hunter if absolutely necessary or if a low profile is required. The use of demon hosts by an Inquisitor is considered heresy by any of Puritan nature and belief. There are the occasional agents who may turn a blind eye to such practices should they be informed their compatriots are undertaking such rituals, though to openly lobby for supporting the practice is perhaps one of the quickest ways an Inquisitor could be found trialed and in loss of their rosette. The act of binding a demon to host form requires significant knowledge that is both dark and forbidden, as rituals to call forth the Neverborn are detailed and often steeped in blood or other form of sacrifice. When bound to a master, a demon host is powerless to harm them and will work under their instruction only, though this does not mean the demon within is content with their lot. Neverborn are forever devious creatures built of malice and hate. A demon host, depending upon its personality, will often turn on their master the first chance they are afforded, as their master's expiry would likely result in their freedom from enslavement to the Inquisitor's demands. Though bound to human form, demon hosts often exhibit tremendous power, some able to move extremely fast, levitating through the air like a hunter-killer missile. They may possess the ability to lengthen their fingers and nails into warp-charged talons, leaping into the enemy and rendering them into wet masses of broken bodies in seconds. Others more powerful may even have the ability to project blistering warp energy from themselves, encompassing enemy ranks and turning them into little more than brittle blackened bones. Once a demon host is made by an Inquisitor, or any individual who believes themselves pure, it is often the beginning of the end for their true spiritual purity and their own rational thought. The presence of such foul and unnatural creatures will often taint those close by, infecting them with warp mutations, paranoid whisperings, and ultimately the madness of the heretic. It is unfortunate that beings of such will and purpose would result to using the archenemy's own nature against them, as these actions, if discovered by their peers, will likely result in the Inquisitor and their associates being deemed traitors and hunted by the organization they were once so heavily invested in. Rogue traders are some of the most flamboyant and eclectic assortment of individuals to be found in the galaxy, never mind the Imperium. A rogue trader is named such due to the authority vested in them by the Imperium of Man. Bestowed with the boon called Warrant of Trade, rogue traders are thus allowed to operate as merchants, adventurers, and diplomats of sorts beyond the standard boundaries a normal citizen would be forced to behave within. Originally created as a means of limiting human interactions en masse with potentially harmful ideals and technology, by requiring a warrant of trade, the personnel who can undertake such missions and forays into the depths of space are monitored. These boons are not limited to travel though. Rogue traders maintain the authority to claim worlds rich in valuable resources, as well as trade with other species of the galaxy, in some instances acquiring valuable Xenos archaeotech. These warrants of trade are passed down through generations, with some inheriting vast trade empires and their own manufactorums, and others having fallen in past times through their lineage, only inheriting decrepit space vessels to attempt to ply the stars to make their mark, or scrape by, trading simple wares. Though the personalities of rogue traders differ greatly between one another, most, if not all, maintain a confidence that in most cases could be seen as a superiority complex. We see rogue traders in both the Eisenhorn and Ravenor series of novels, supplying these inquisitors with means of stellar transport and protection, as well as in some cases the ability to engage enemy space vessels that would otherwise require an inquisitor to petition for aid from the Imperial Navy. There are various ways a rogue trader could come into the employ of an inquisitor. Had they fallen on hard times, the ability to make an ally with the Inquisition and potentially claim valuables in their travels may tempt a rogue trader down on their luck. In other instances, were an inquisitor to learn of a recently returned rogue trader voyage, they would most likely engage the trader to inspect their wares and request information on their learnings and observations during their travels. Knowledge is power after all. For the more public and militant of inquisitors who operate on a larger scale than the typical cloak and dagger approach most agents adhere to, inquisitorial stormtroopers are valuable assets to include within their arsenal of followers. Often orphans of military families, these individuals have been drilled in the fortresses of the hard-line Schola Progenium from a very young age. Having been moulded and inducted into the imperial creed by the drill abbots of these institutes, the men that emerge are utterly lethal and dedicated to the Emperor above all else, characteristics an inquisitor finds most useful. Unlike a lot of other types of acolyte, stormtroopers are professional soldiery and typically do not actively display the quirky or exotic nature of other party members. They can be relied upon to follow orders always and execute them with precise application of their learned doctrines and strategies. These attributes make for reliable extensions of an inquisitor's will, which can often be preferred over some of the more willful and petulant natures of some henchmen. Inquisitorial stormtroopers are typically equipped with carapace armor and the powerful hotshot lasgun, otherwise known as a hellgun. There are hundreds of thousands, if not more, cults of the Imperial Creed throughout the various human domains within the galaxy. These cults can range from utterly harmless to being filled with zealots of only the most fanatical outlook, and even cults which have unwittingly fallen to the dark powers of chaos. Though there are occasionally cultists within the bands of followers which accompany inquisitors, cultists are usually followers by nature and require a lot of attention, as well as a very clear purpose to operate anywhere near approaching effectiveness. There are, however, exceptions to the rule, with these zealots often possessing incredible faith and determination, their only purpose in existence to punish those they perceive as wicked. Often in the employ of only the most puritanical of inquisitors, a cultist's creed and personality will often heavily influence their armaments. Fanatics originating from the redemptionist cult of Necromunda, for instance, will often wield close combat armaments such as cudgels and pistols, with mobs of followers also possessing flamers, all the better to burn the witch and the heretic. For a large quantity of inquisitorial bands, the presence of a devout cultist is too overbearing, their harsh and criticizing personalities often clashing with those they deem as not pious or sinful. Instead, should an inquisitor wish for some form of holy presence, they will often elect to employ a priest or a drill abbot. Drill abbots are often veterans of the military who have retired to a more fulfilling life of instructing the youth within the training grounds of the Schola Progenium and other places of learning where young imperial citizens must be taught the imperial creed and survival skills necessary to one day represent their species among the stars in open conflict. They are stoic, yet dogmatic in nature. Drill abbots are not just teachers, they have often lived tumultuous and combat-driven lives. To have the opportunity to pass on their skills and hardline beliefs to the future Commissariat, Tempestus Scions, Adeptus Sororitas, and numerous other branches of the Imperium is an honour. Any Inquisitor's retinue can benefit from the presence of a drill abbot. These men are veterans of 100 wars, having survived when most, if not all, of their comrades have perished. Given their life experience, the abbot often can be relied upon for wise counsel, and when the time comes to eliminate the opposition, their skill in killing is unsurpassed. Often with a prayer on their lips and wielding weapons of holy might such as hammers, or powered cudgels, or even eviscerators. These veterans make short work of anybody believing their older years equate to frailty. There have been uncountable instances in the past of the Magi of Mars and the agents of the Inquisition working together in the same retinue. Whilst the advantages a tech priest brings to the disposal of a wily Inquisitor are readily apparent, the skills to communicate with machines, bypass security systems, and even maintain vessels and equipment, the benefits an Inquisitor can bring to this relationship are not so plain to see. While some will travel together out of past bonds of friendship and duty, having faced some great enemy together, this is not commonplace, as tech priests do not readily cultivate their human emotions. Their loyalty lies with the machine cult alone. More often than not, a tech priest will travel within an Inquisitor's band to gain experience out in the depths of space, while operating within the legal parameters of the Imperium. They may also sequester themselves to Inquisitors who are active in fields of xenotech and the like, knowing that were they to provide services the Imperial agents require, they can barter for rare technology or the chance to discover some for themselves on the distant worlds an Inquisitor must at times travel between. Thank you so much for tuning in, especially if you've enjoyed the content so much you've made it right to the end. Please consider hitting the sub button and giving the video a like so the content is recommended to others. Until next time, take it easy and have a good one.